Hey, this is Tepe from Thrice, and you're listening to the Macho Grande podcast.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/Macho Grande. Over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
They want you to fade into the background. Don't stand out. All the valleys, the beings of the hills have been shot down. Get on your knees. You know you want to. Why don't you get on your knees? Get on your knees. You know you want to. We become the nation of victimization. Why can't we admit the hypocrites? Nobody likes your direction. Yeah, we don't turn around. How could it be? This is really we are being kept down. Get on your knees. You know you want to. Why don't you get on your knees? Get on your knees. You know you want to. Tell me, where does it stop? Where does it stop? It's all along. It's all in our cops. Why would God create something so weak? Unless he wanted it to suffer. Why would God create something so weak? Unless he wanted it to suffer.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 199 of Macho Grande. I'm Pete,
And I'm Matt.
and we kicked off with Pig Destroyer. That track was called Army of Cops. It's actually their sixth album, and it's their first album in 6 years, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Head Cage, so that is out now. Seems to be dividing opinions as well.
In what way?
Well, now, I'm not the biggest kind of grind fan, but
Yeah.
this album to me, I've been through it twice, and it is definitely more accessible, shall we say. So I wonder if that's why fans are not happy.
Accessible as in, like, Suicide Silence trying to be accessible style?
I don't think it's... I mean, I don't know their back catalogue that well. I can't imagine getting that uptight about this. I mean, to me, it's still brutally heavy. There's just maybe not quite as blasts, and there's a lot more kind of groove riffs. Some of it's
Right.
maybe a bit slower, that's all. But I think it sounds really cool.
Okay, I've only just got it today, so I haven't properly sort of got into it. So, I mean, it's I need to have that played through.
So yeah, it's out now. It came out September 7th via Relapse.
Okay. Again, another great band on Relapse.
Today's show, we're going to do 2 album in reviews. We're going to talk about Attan, their brand new album, which is called End Of, and we're also going to have a chat about Thrice, their new album, Palms.
Trying to catch up with a sort of like the flurry of albums that are starting to come out that we talked about on the last episode, because we've gone through the dry patch and now they're all coming out.
Yeah, it's all starting to head out now. I must admit, I'm a little bit behind, to be honest.
Right.
I don't know, I've tried to get a few things in. Actually, Aphex Twin's been the one this week.
Really?
Yeah, he released his Collapse EP, so I've had that on fairly steady rotation. It sounds really cool. I like it.
Cool.
What else did I listen to? Arcane Roots, they've got an EP called Landslide. I'm confused because somebody told me that they'd split up. Or have announced their split. I don't know if that's true or not because I didn't have time to really check. So apologies, awful journalism. But if they have, it's seemingly nobody seems to have talked about it because I've heard nothing about it. So I'm hoping that wasn't true. So I'm going to check that out as soon as we've recorded. Conan, which we're going to end today's show on, I've given that one go through so far. The Dirty Nail. What else was it? Storm of Light. They've got a new album coming out, which I've been through once, which sounds very good. And then the biggie were two big ones actually. Anal Nathrak, their new album, a new kind of horror.
Right.
And also the brand new album from Daughters, which we'll play on the next show, which is, it sounds good. It sounds like quite a departure. So, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit of a different direction for them, I reckon.
In a good way or in a... Because you really liked that last album?
I do really like them, but I mean, they were always quite scatty and full on. This sounds interesting, but it's definitely not scatty and full on. So...
Interesting.
Yeah. So I've literally only kind of gone through it. I don't think I even made it to the end, so it's only been on once.
Right.
So that's like the big one for next week, really. But yeah, Anal Nathrak, giving that a few goes. That sounds really good, although it's some of the vocals I have a hard time with. He goes super like 80s squealy high pitch, which I have trouble with.
Right, okay.
But that aside, there is some amazing moments on there, and they're really embracing like the kind of squelchy noises, and there's like bits of drum and bass almost in there. It's really cool.
Okay. I'll have to check it out. Well, you again, that's been added to my list now that you've...
And I caught the tiniest bit of Puppy at Corp.
Oh, yeah? How was that?
They seemed good. They pulled a good crowd. They sounded good. I'm just not quite sure what they are because their music is quite eclectic. Like, it'll go from one thing and then it would be somewhere totally different the next play. And I'm not quite sure how much I truly like it. I think what I need to do now is actually sit down with an album and go through it properly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because one minute I was like, oh, this sounds really good. And then the next minute it kind of went somewhere I wasn't really sure about. And I was doing that thing of dashing between rooms. So it probably wasn't the best sort of...
Yeah. I mean, again, it can't... Yeah, I mean, I think in a similar way to say, like, you know, Milk Teeth or Heck or Baby Godzilla, their earlier sort of incarnations, that sort of ilk where it's like, or even like sort of Rulu Tomasi, I guess. You know, if you don't know the album stuff, it could, you know, if you're just watching it live, it could seem all over the place.
It just seemed very jarring, yeah.
So, yeah, well, again, they're one of those bands that just sort of have a lot of hype around. So,
and I've kind of only ever heard one-off songs. So, yeah, and I'd love to kind of go through an album properly. So,
okay, well, I don't know anything. Again, just sort of I missed the hype train on them. So, yeah, I should really look into it.
And then, yeah, obviously Thrice and Attan. I've been listening to those loads. But what about you?
Well, like you say, Thrice and Attan, heavy rotation, sort of blasted through the new Sky Harbor.
Oh, yeah.
Which is okay. Again, haven't sort of listened to it enough to sort of really comment on it.
That's really quite techie gent stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of proggy and gent with that sort of, of sort of Tesseract ilk. You know, it's that sort of...
I remember hearing their first release, and it wasn't quite for me.
No, well, I'm pretty sure the first release had Dan from Tesseract singing, and this is the new album with their new singer.
Right. Since
Dan returned to Tesseract. I'm pretty sure that that's what's happened. I could be mixing it up with some other band, but I'm pretty sure that's Sky Harbor. I quite like the first album, but again, like I said, I haven't my sort of time has really been sucked up by the new Thrice and the new Architect single.
Oh yeah. I've been listening to that, definitely.
Yeah, the first sort of like hint. Well, I mean, it's Architects surprised everyone with brand new single and announced a brand new album, Holy Hell, and a tour,
which is due out soon as well. Were you expecting that? Like, it's out in November, isn't it?
Not at all.
I mean, I've put that in the news as well, but we can chat about that now if you want. November 9th, it's coming out via Epitaph.
Yeah, but again, Architects have a history of doing this, where they're just sort of like, they don't leak that they're working on anything, and then it's just like, right, now we're active. Like, here we are, we're going out again. We've got a whole new album recorded, and we're ready to go. And it's like, it's sort of following some of their Twitter and just sort of talking about how, like, on this new single Hereafter, there is traces of Tom in it. From what Dan sort of talks about, is just like he's sort of layered throughout the album, be it sort of samples from old songs or stuff that he left on, that were uploaded. They've lifted elements, so he's in there some way, incorporated in songs, be it if it's like a riff that he recorded or demoed and they've broadened it out, or just a bit of harmonic stuff that he recorded, whatever it is. Apparently it's going to be sewn in throughout the album, which is pretty cool.
That's a really nice idea. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's also just cool to see, like, I've forgotten his name, from Silosis, really sort of taking control of the songwriting duties with the rest of the band. So yeah, it shows promise, and I'm really excited for this new album.
And what I was going to say, what do you actually think about the track?
I really like it. Really, really like it.
It's Josh, isn't it? Josh from Silosis.
Yeah, Josh, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I think I was first a bit sort of like, whenever it started, and it starts with the sort of harmony bit, I was like, I'm not sure where this is going. And then it was just
quite
like,
down tempo, isn't it?
Yeah. And then it just goes straight into like, nope, this is Architects, here we go.
I thought his vocals sounded quite different as well on this.
Yeah, I think, again, it sort of like in a different slightly key as well. You sort of like,
that high edge is gone, isn't it? It's sort of brought it slightly tonally down.
Going for the chorus anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is, what I'm really excited about is the video that they teased shortly before this single came out, which had this really interesting orchestral sort of piece that kind of lasted sort of 30 seconds to a minute. It felt like the start of the album, but had elements from Memento Mori, the last track on the last album. So it sounds like it bleeds into this new album, if you know what I mean. So it's like a kind of like the follow-on from the sort of the Death album to the Rebirth. There's an interesting kind of like, I think it's going to be an interesting kind of like second half to All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us sort of chapter. And again, especially when you look at the sort of track titles, there is a lot of, this is clearly all about Tom. So yeah, I'm very excited. But yeah,
and
so
the UK dates are largely arenas. What do you think of that?
They're out of me. Well, and sold out.
So sold out? No, it's not sold out yet, I don't think.
Most of them are close to selling out. I've sort of seen on their Twitter, like 400 tickets still here, and like X amount of tickets sold in the last hour, sort of thing. Like,
are you more like what? So, which would you rather, like a kind of 3,000 capacity type venue show, or an arena?
I can understand why they're now working on arenas.
Yeah.
But I would have liked, especially given that the Alexandra Palace...
That's like a 10,000 cap, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was... they only just played there before Christmas.
I mean, this potentially allows for a bigger production.
Oh, totally. And they're clearly at that level now. Like, I think the Ali Pali show really sort of showed that they are now breaking through into the next... echelon of band level. Like they're on the cusp of sort of following in Bring Me the Horizon sort of levels, or Parkway, sorry. the bigger arenas with the full stage show. But I would have liked to have seen just an intimate club show.
Yeah, I mean, they maybe still do that alongside. I mean, I think they've been quite careful with this as well because it's quite a nice package. Because you've got Beartooth, who are obviously, pretty hotly tipped. They're just about to drop their new album.
Yeah.
And you've got Polaris on there as well, who are wicked. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great lineup. I mean, I just wish they were playing closer.
What's the nearest? Manchester? For me,
London, maybe, for me.
Okay.
But I think that's close to selling out. So
I'm
again,
a massive fan of going to arena shows. That's the only trouble.
I know.
I don't know why, but...
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of this I want to see live already. And again, I didn't get to the Ali Pali show, but the footage I've seen looked amazing. So, the difference, certainly compared to other bands, every song they will play is one I want to hear live. So, be it at an arena show, it won't matter because I want to see it all. But yeah, I'm just really excited. So that's kind of really sort of taken over my listening pack. And then Being as an Ocean re-released Waiting for the Morning to Come as a deluxe edition.
Now, how different are the... 'cause I've not heard this yet. So this is it reworkings of the tracks? And how different is it?
No, it's pretty much the same, slightly remixed with 4 or 5 extra... Yeah, 4 extra songs.
Are they more kind of ambient versions of the tracks, or...?
No, it's pretty much the same.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a re-release, a remix, a deluxe reissue kind of thing. Although they still haven't included the track. One of the tracks on the album is backwards. The Powers That Be, which is listed as Eb, Tath, Swear, Etta, or whatever. You can go on YouTube and you can sort of download the forward version of that song because it's quite interesting hearing it forwards and backwards because there's the way they've recorded it is most of it's backwards, but there are forwards stuff playing through it, and then when you play it the other way, the majority of it's forwards, but there is backwards stuff in it as well. So it's quite kind of clever, but
yeah, I think I need to listen to the original and then I'll listen to the new one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's their strongest album. It's certainly their most ambient and emotional, I think. But yeah, I still think sort of the last 2 albums were bigger favorites for me, but they still do it. Just the way they have that aggression to the clean vocal, and the clean vocalist is from the Elijah. So it's just kind of I love the Elijah, so
yeah.
It's just cool to sort of hear that sort of mix. They always get me with those kind of emo riffs. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to.
Cool.
So we crack on before we get into the news.
And just very quickly, I just did a quick little bit of man look something up on the internet, and Arcane Roots have indeed announced that they're going to disband after touring their final EP, Landslide, which is the one that I just mentioned, which has just come out. So yeah, they're splitting up. So I mean, that just kind of sums up their career really as a bit of a just completely underrated, overlooked band, because they announced this, and I saw none of that across my feeds. Nobody mentioning it. Which just seems such a shame for such a cool band.
Yeah, I didn't know.
So I don't know what the reasons are, but that is absolutely gutting.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that for you.
But they're stuck in that tricky place of, almost where Biffy Clyro are headed, where it's it's a bit too intelligent for mainstream. But it's also not quite cracking on with the metalers and stuff either. Do you know what I mean? It's just slightly in that rut of never quite getting their fan base together enough.
Yeah, it's quite sort of in the halfway point of yeah, I know what you mean. I mean,
don't get me wrong, they do have their loyal following, but it doesn't seem to have spread its wings that far.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's if it doesn't grow.
And I don't think they've had masses of publicity either, which because Black Peeps, they're not a million miles away, but they've had such a good push and a good vibe about them and people spreading the word, and that just never seems to have quite happened for Arcane Roots.
Well, I think they did on the first album.
I mean, there was that single that I absolutely adored, but the amount of times I used to play that at the club and nobody seemed to care. But
I think that's the thing, is like they had their push and it didn't connect.
Yeah, maybe.
So
yeah, that's a shame.
yeah, okay, well that's sort of a previewing the news.
Yeah. And Dan was in Sky Harbor. I looked that up too.
Yes, I knew something.
Yeah. Right, we're just going to sneak in a quick one then, and then we're going to do the news properly before we get into these album and reviews. This is a band called Elwood Stray. We did talk about them a little while ago. I can't remember if we played a track.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had an EP called Burn the Bridge. I can't remember if we played a track of it or not, but I remember mentioning it. And they've got a new single, basically. It's called You Lost, and this features, I'm going to say his name wrong, Kassin Aul of Alaska.
Sure.
Yeah, apologies if I've horrendously mispronounced that. So this is Redfield Records, and they've just said that new music is coming soon, so this is online now. That was Elwood Stray, and the track was called You Lost. Let's get into the news.
Go for it.
Sad bit of news first is that Glenn Telford, who played for Skin Lab for quite a long time in the noughties, he wasn't like an original member, but he played with them for quite a while, has sadly passed away. And Skin Lab were a great like American metal band, so if you don't know them, then you've got several albums worth of cool stuff to go and check out. What else did we put down? There's more Metallica merch has come out, including a Funko Pop of the Lady Justice, which looks pretty.
I saw that.
I thought that looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Better than the watch. I'd spend money on that over the watch, definitely.
I didn't see the watch.
Or watches, rather. There was like we talked about it on the last show, there's a whole range of watches, of which I thought looked pretty poor, to be honest.
I didn't see that. I remember they did, I mean, like, again, not like a Metallica fan, or certainly the world's biggest Metallica fan at all, but I remember when they did their range of shoes with Vans.
Oh, the Vans shoes, yeah.
Yeah, they were really cool, especially the Lars Ulrich slip-on ones that were sort of like, they were black, done like it was sort of like a metal grating.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were rad.
Yeah, no,
I
thought they looked good.
those shoes.
Yeah, no, I would have quite liked those. Right, this is one of the more interesting things I saw this week. Rolling Stone have done a feature which goes into the in-depth history of the Judgment Night soundtrack, of which I was a massive fan when it came out. I'm guessing you were probably as well, were you?
I remember it.
So this is in the era where soundtrack albums were a big deal, and they were part of the promotional package with the film. But they crossed over into our world. Like, if you remember how big a deal the Spawn soundtrack was.
Yeah, but that's, again, it's what I was going to say is, like, it was, like, a part of the cross-promotion, and it was always, like, a cross-promotion with, like, Roadrunner Records.
Yeah. But this...
it's always Roadrunner bands.
It's really, really good read. Like, there's tons of interesting stuff in there. It was all put together by Happy Walters, who at the time was managing Cypress Hill, the House of Pain, loads of stuff. So... it had loads and loads of cool crossovers, which was quite the thing at the time. And like we say, some soundtracks really worked. And I remember like the Slayer stuff and like Booyah Tribe and Cypress Hill and all these people on this. It was a really,
House of Pain.
Helmet House of Pain was amazing, yeah. So, you know, some of it worked really, really well, regardless of what the film was like. And some of these just hit home really well. I mean, for those of you young enough, like the Spawn soundtrack and this were pretty big.
Yeah,
some of them not so much.
It was the best part of the Spawn film, bar his cape.
Did you ever get was it Loud Rocks? That was awful.
Loud Rocks?
Yeah, I'm sure it's called Loud Rocks. It had a System of a Down with somebody.
No.
Oh, what was that? That wasn't so good. I'm seeing if it's on my hard drive, but I don't think it is. I'm sure it's called Loud Rocks. I can't remember what it was for. There it is, Loud Rocks. Yeah. Yeah, it's System of a Down with Wu-Tang Clan.
Wow.
That was about the only one I remember. It's got Crazy Town and the Alcoholics. Seven Dust and Exhibit. Ozzy Osbourne and Tony Iommi with Wu-Tang Clan. I don't remember any of that being good, apart from Shame, which was System and Wu-Tang.
See, there you go, listeners. Aren't you glad that you're young enough to have missed out on all of those horrific things?
2000 that came out. So actually, I don't think there was a film time with that at all. I think that maybe was just its own. Here's a crazy mashup of all your favourite artists.
You say that like it was recently. You do realize 2018 years ago?
No, that's what I'm saying. It was a long time ago.
Exactly. You know, a 16-year-old listening to this podcast will have no idea what we're talking about.
No, that's what I mean. That's why they should go
CDs.
out.
What are they?
Go out and check out the Spawn soundtrack, because that genuinely is.
Spawn soundtrack, Silverchair, and I've forgotten who it was.
Didn't Kirk Hammett was on there with somebody?
Yeah, Kirk Hammett.
And was it Orbital?
Oh God, I'm trying to remember some of the. It was Korn and Dust Brothers.
How do you spell Spawn?
SPAWN.
Oh, I was spelling it like the drum kit. That's why it didn't come up.
Yeah, that's why.
So
yeah, Korn and the Dust Brothers.
There it is.
And there
Filter
was, like,
and the Crystal Method.
Yes.
That was one of my favourites. There's a track called Can't You Trip Like I Do. That was ace.
Which was an amazing version compared to the original Filter version.
Oh right, I don't even remember.
The
that.
one on the first Filter album, it's good, but that remix of it is way better.
Just to look at like they'd mashed together two people, but the people on this soundtrack really was good. So you got like Slayer and Atari Teenage Riot. You got Incubus and DJ Greyboy. You got Henry Rollins and Goldie. Obviously, yeah, Silverchair and Vitro. I don't know what Vitro is. I don't remember them.
Yeah, Vitro.
Vitro. The Prodigy and Tom Morello. You got Stabbing Westward and Wink. Metallica and DJ Spooky for the Bell Tolls thing. And then, yeah, Orbital and Kirk Hammett. But, yeah, my favourite one was the Filter and the Crystal Method County Trip.
I really like that one. And I really like... I quite like the Korn one, Kick the PA. It was okay-ish. But, yes, Silverchair and Vitro the Spawn. That one was amazing. I love that. And then they sort of re-recorded it for their Neon Ballroom album.
1997. So, yeah, truly terrible film. And so was Judgment Night, really, but...
Oh, well, yes. The Spawn film was...
I'd probably take Judgment Night over Spawn, I reckon, film-wise.
Well, I don't know. The one, I mean, like, the best scenes in it are still when John Leguizamo, he plays the clown whenever he turns into Violator.
Mate, I don't think I've watched it since 1997.
I've watched it within the last year, definitely, because I'm sure it's on Netflix or something, or it was on Channel 5 or something, and I definitely have seen it within the last year, so I'm reminded of that's the one bit where it was like, yeah, this looks good, and then there's the bits towards the end where he's in hell, and it's just like the worst 90s CGI that money could afford at the time. It was just... Was it?
Terrible. So I'm trying to remember now. Obviously, The Crow came out a few years before that. But what was the soundtrack to that like? Did that kind of kickstart this stuff? I can't remember.
No, it wasn't the kickstart of it. It didn't do like the remix sort of thing.
I can't remember what was on the Crow soundtrack, to be honest. I remember that being quite big at the time as well.
Yeah, there's 9 Inch Nails, Helmet.
But they weren't collaborations. It was just
The Cure. Yeah, they weren't collaborations. They were just tracks specifically for that album.
Oh yeah, Helmet put Milk Toast on there.
Yeah, again, and it was an early version of Milk Toast as well.
Oh,
so
of course, Pantera had the badge on there, yeah.
That was it, yeah. And 9 Inch Nails, the track that he had was really, really good.
Joy Division cover, that was.
And then there were bands like, Violent Femmes, and I mean, but yeah. Oh, sorry, we really sort of like veered off there.
Can't really remember how that started. Oh yeah, so yeah, Rolling Stone. So if you want to read about how that all came together, the history of the Judgment Night soundtrack, it's well worth a read. 9 Inch Nails are kicked off their new tour and really coolly performing the Broken EP in full, which is ace.
Yeah. Did you see there was an announcement Slipknot are planning a deluxe All Hope Is Gone reissue? And
I don't need to hear that.
A 20-year anniversary for the debut album as well.
Cool. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I remember they've already done like a special edition of that had tons of stuff anyway.
Yeah, but now they'll be getting to 20 years.
Okay.
So they can resell it, but with 20 on the front. To be fair, it is still a landmark album, like that first one.
Oh god, yeah.
I mean, that changed the metal scene in 99, 2000.
I remember going down to the Astoria for Slipknot's first ever London show, and this never happens anymore. Got to interview Corey, unmasked, 20-minute interview in the venue. Incredible. That kind of shit does not happen anymore.
Yeah, especially because that was like after they shot across town to do TFI Friday.
I remember we weren't allowed to have a picture with him because at that point it was all still like mega secretive as to who they all were and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was still pretty much mega secretive to who they all were, even up to the third album, Volume 3.
Well, I guess it was only when they started to do all the side project stuff where obviously they didn't go out in masks.
So it was I remember seeing them in Belfast on the Volume 3 tour, and like they were all seen Auntie Annie's
right
in Belfast, all unmasked,
right.
And it was just like this whole like they're actually there and this is what they look like.
Well, I remember and again on the internet it was quite a big deal when pictures of them unmasked got put around the net.
Yeah, Whereas now it's just like, well, especially since they did that press conference. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, yeah,
Bloodstock have announced their first headliner. So the Friday night headliner 2019 is Sabaton, of which the rumours were pretty strong. So
really,
yeah, that had been bandied about for a while, and it's seemingly the next two. Most people are saying will be Behemoth, because obviously they're about to drop their new album. And,
I've heard that one,
and obviously we're part of the final Slayer tour, so.
I've seen that one listed by people speculating as well.
They seem to be the two names, so it'll be interesting to see if people get 3 for 3. And then, interestingly, Arctangent have announced Meshuggah as their 2019, one of their headliners, which Metal Hammer have aptly now called it Arctangent.
Cool. Cool.
Even though Meshuggah hate that word, but yeah, fair
well,
enough.
yeah, but maybe that's something that this festival can play on.
Oh god, there's going to be merch with that. Sure, they're missing a treat if they don't.
Definitely. Well, they could theme a day around it. You know, do get more gent bands for that day playing with Meshuggah. So Korn have announced album a new album they're working on, due for release in March. Not much else, just that they're working on it.
Maynard has announced that he's preparing to record final vocals for the Tool album, which could mean,
good, he's preparing now.
Which could mean anything, really.
Yeah,
so.
Or nothing. I mean, yeah, again, I'll believe it.
I finally got hold of a copy, I've not watched it yet, of Blood into Wine, which is his film documentary about his wine business.
Jolly good.
Yep.
Let me know how that is.
I will. I'll let you know next show.
Yeah, jolly good. Oh,
and that's it. I haven't got anything else down.
Okay. Again, just sort of. Killswitch have apparently completed sort of 21 songs to choose from for their new album.
Right, there's no excuse then, is there? If they've got 21 songs, there is no excuse. This needs to be album of the career. There needs to be 3 like quadruple A sides, and
I would settle for like. You know, there needs to be like at least 2 or 3 big singles, or not big singles, but like crowd pleasers, like big sort of anthemy. It doesn't need to be a mesh or a muddle of similar sounding songs. Just some variety that they've done in the past.
Yeah, I hope they trim that down to a nice, neat 12 bangers.
Yeah, just 12 bangers, great choruses, and that would really get people back on side. Well, certainly get me back on side, because I'm just a bit sort of, I want them to be better than they have been.
Yeah, it's such a... Well, like you say, it doesn't need to be that much, because live they can pull it out of the bag. They've got so much to pull from. So it'd just be nice now to have an album that you can... Yeah, this is...
True, but it would also be nice just to have, a like you say, 1 to 12 track album that they can play start to finish for to splice up a new tour. Mm-hmm. So like, no, the album's that good, we can actually play all the new album and then throw in classic songs toward like, because at the moment they've got this. The last couple of tours have always been the weird set list of like throwing in bits here and there, and then obviously having the sort of not novelty, but like having Jesse sing hard songs or have hard come out to sing on the new song. So you've got this sort of like, it'd be just nice to have a third album in with Jesse back in the band. Here's one that we can do start to finish and just ride on it if we wanted, instead of sort of like mixing in. That's what I'd like, is just surprise me with something that is quality from start to finish that you could actually just tour on that album alone. But we'll see. And yeah, that's pretty much it at the moment. I'm just doing an odd refresh just to see if anything new has suddenly happened, but no. Okay.
So we're doing 2 album in reviews today. We're going to talk about Attan and we're going to talk about Thrice. Let's do Attan first.
UK.
And they've just brought out their new album, End Of. Now, listeners may remember we banged on about these like a year and a half or 2 years ago, because they did an EP via Shell's Music called From Nothing, which is superb. Very, very good.
Yeah.
It was only 5 tracks long, And they came over and they played. There was that show with Conjurer, and they came and did Damnation. Really good live band as well. They're from Norway, so this is now their debut full length, of which is 9 songs. And interestingly, one of them, track 6, Black Liquid Marrow, that was on the EP, but otherwise everything else is new.
Okay.
How much do you remember that original EP, or was this fairly fresh to you now, listening to this?
Yeah, this is fairly fresh, although I do remember the name because we listened to that EP. So, I mean, I knew, I kind of had an idea of what to expect, but at the same time, they were kind of out of mind enough to approach it freshly. What about you? Were you sort of like quite aware of the background or the first EP?
Well, I ran the press on that debut EP, so I knew that pretty well. They're not with Shell's Music now, so I haven't worked on this one.
Right.
They're a really, really, really good bunch of lads, and it was great working with them on that EP. So this new one, I mean, so if you've not heard Attan before, they are this wonderful blend of noisy doom hardcore that blend up all of that and with bits of death metal, and I'd say quite old school metal as well in places. And a real highlight, although it's perhaps not used enough yet, is the dual vocals. So you've got these 2 very distinct vocals, and I think they work wonderfully together because you've got this really, really deep, sort of almost neurosis-like growl of Fritz singing, and then you've got the main singer who has a much, much higher frequency. So he can pull off that kind of almost sort of convergy, like, you know, raspy high vocal.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There is a very sort of converge. It's sort of converge meets doom, sort of like converge meets neurosis.
They throw a lot in the pot. Yeah, and sometimes it's almost, I'd almost like them to choose a little bit more of a direction to go in. When it first starts, I wasn't entirely sure about the production, but every time I put it on, by the time I get to track 2 or 3, it's fine. I've kind of settled with it, but it always just seems slightly jarring when I first put it on.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the production myself, but my main, again, I think it just comes down to personal taste. I preferred when the higher frequency vocals. I didn't like the dual vocals.
Oh, okay. So Black Liquid Marrow is a real standout to me.
Right.
Because I love it when they go slightly more neurosis-like and it's a bit more down-tempo. I don't mind the fast stuff. I really like this album. I think it's great. I don't think it's quite there yet. I still think there's a ton of potential.
When those deeper vocals come in, I'm liking everything else but those.
Oh, interesting.
I like the down tempo. I like the crazy riffs and the sort of like noise of it all. Again, I kind of wish that either, you know, the main singer carried on or that it just went to instrumental. It was just, I don't know. Again, I think it's just personal taste. I wasn't gelling with those deeper vocals.
Right, okay.
Which was annoying because everything else about it I was really digging. It was just when that came in, it was like, oh, it doesn't work for me.
Right, interesting, because I think he's got a great voice. Then when he does the really deep low, I think it's such a nice kind of balance to the other dude.
Yeah.
I've marked out, I really stand out for me, track 3, track 5, and then the last 2 tracks in particular, I think are absolutely standouts. Like 8 has this really kind of unnerving little repeating guitar line.
Yeah.
And then it breaks away and goes into this really, really early neurosis like Tom section, which builds. And I think that's fantastic. And then the last track, they really just kind of experiment quite a bit.
Yeah, see, now this is what I was like really impressed with, because it's like, I think they could have had a couple more of these sorts of tracks on the album, especially whenever, like, pretty much I think the tracks are actually listed in pretty much ascending time order.
I noticed that. Yeah, you're right.
Not perfect, but it is kind of like they get longer the further you get into the album.
That's interesting.
And so I could have happily taken on a couple more longer tracks, sort of from like track 3 or 4.
I mean, three's a nice mix of everything. It has like lots of blasts. It's got the mixed vocals, and it's got like this sort of soaring, doomy lead guitar bit. So I think there is kind of a nice mix in that one.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, there's a lot of the sort of like that sort of Norwegian, Scandinavian bleakness that there is in that sort of Scandinavian death metal. That there's that kind of
the artwork reflects that wonderfully as well.
To it all. The thing that was really just jarring with me, I just couldn't get used to it, and the more I was thinking about I can't get used to this vocal.
See, I think with that, because I'd obviously seen him live a couple of times as well.
Right.
So I've kind of watched that, because he's got a good, not to keep praising Fritz, but he's got a good presence on stage as well.
Yeah.
Like, the main singer, he'll jump around and he's sort of climbing on stuff. He's really energetic. And then Fritz is, obviously he's playing as well, but he's got a good presence on stage. So I think that kind of worked for me in their favour as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I know everything about this I should like. It's just it's that one bit element that's I'm either still not used to after X amount of listens, or that it's just it just is a personal taste, and I think that's the only thing that sort of really doesn't gel with me, because everything else about it is what I would want. I mean, I think
the other thing to kind of take away from this as well is, like, if you look at a lot of their peers, like of bands like Neurosis and sort of Amon Ra and those kind of Conan and stuff, if you think what their debut albums were like compared to this is actually like really strong. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you go back and listen to, I don't mean really early Neurosis, which is the crust punk stuff, but even if you go back to like Souls at Zero and stuff, this is pretty strong. So
how long ago was it since Black Liquid Marrow?
I think it's 2 years.
Okay, so I mean, it has been a while then.
Yeah, if not a year and a half, then definitely 2 years, because it wasn't last year's Damnation, it was the one before, I think. My memory's terrible. No, I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it has all these elements that I really like that just aren't hitting all the marks that I'd want, just because, like I said, personal sort of taste. So, I mean, I like it a lot, bar the bits I don't like.
Fair enough. I also like the cover. I've not got a finished copy yet. The
cover's class. Is it like a waterfall in a cave?
I haven't quite figured it out. I don't know, because have you got the artwork from Nothing as well?
Yeah.
Did I give you one of those vinyls? Have you got a vinyl of that or not?
No.
Because the Shell's music release of that, like, he always goes all out of just this really nice heavy duty gatefold, and it's gorgeous, and it's really cool. And I don't know what they've done for the new one. Like I said, I've not seen finished copies yet, but
it's kind of like a hole in a cave wall, or I don't know. It's almost like you're looking out of a cave into the light. But I mean, it's just a really nice photograph.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So yeah, we need to give it a rating and choose a track to play, of which we can pretty much play anything other than Black Liquid Marrow, because we definitely played that a couple of years ago. Okay.
Well, I'll let you choose.
Should we? I tell you what, let's do track 8 then, seeing as how we both... Did you say you preferred the later tracks as well?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I quite like the fast stuff at the beginning.
I'd either say 3, which is On Hands and Knees, which has a bit of a mixture of everything, or 8 is the slightly dirgier.
Yeah, go with Ghostwriters, track 8.
Okay, cool. And what are you going to give it out of 10?
What did you give it?
I haven't.
Oh, right. I was sitting at a 7.5.
I'm going to go 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
That's pretty fair then.
Cool. Well, again, like I said, I mean, everything about it is great, bar the bits I don't like. It was purely just like not gelling with me on those little bits, and that's why I'm not far off yours.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I think it's a really solid album. I don't know. It wasn't that I was sort of putting loads of expectation on them. I just kind of thought, with 9 tracks, and I've heard one of them before.
Yeah.
And there's maybe 2 that I'd slightly call filler. Like, there is that little moment where he's doing the "You're Gonna Die, You're Gonna Die." I'm not that fussed about that track. And maybe one of the others is slightly filler. But I think the rest of it is absolutely solid. Really, really enjoyable. So, cool. Very, very good. And as I say, I think absolutely a band to watch, yeah. I think the best is, it's coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is track 8. This is Ghostwriters. Right, so that was our review of Attan, End of.
Next up,
It's a biggie.
it is a biggie. It's
Collectively one of our favourite bands of all time ever.
yes, it's one of the bands we sort of bonded over when we first met. I mean, I think it was just the Alchemy Index had come out when we first met. So we were both Vahaizu
Yes.
had just come out.
Yeah,
when
so
we
this is
first
Thrice
met.
we're talking
Like,
about, of course.
yes. So we were sort of like that was the kind of album that we sort of both grew to adore on top of like what had sort of come before with Thrice. And again, yeah, that was kind of the high watermark probably for both of us.
Yeah,
that
God,
album.
well, I absolutely adore that album. Absolutely
Yeah.
adore it. It's fantastic. So this is now their 10th album.
Yeah, 10 albums in
which is
20
nuts.
years.
Yeah. Now, I didn't like the last one that much, of which you thought I was mad. You rated it really highly. I didn't quite gel with it. There was certainly some standout moments, but I just didn't, I don't know, it wasn't quite there for me. This is right back up there. I'm really enjoying. So this is Palms, and I think this is fantastic.
Look, I really liked the last album. I thought it was a big step up from the album just before that, Beggars. Well, I mean, because the last album was the sort of comeback album, To Be Everywhere.
Yeah, because they'd had a hiatus of about 3 or 4 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. And then that was the sort of comeback album. And then this is kind of okay, we know what this band is now. You know, we'll tour when we want to. We'll record when we want to. There isn't the same kind of pressure on them. So, and you can feel it in this album. It's like, this is just them writing.
And it's quite, so it's not got amazing reviews when you
Really?
sort of search around. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few fans be sniffy online, and
Really?
I've seen quite a few reviews that are just okay, and lots of people just saying it's not their best.
Wow.
It is quite minimalist in places, and the songs are slightly simplistic in structure. So there is, a fairly easygoing kind of verse chorus mentality. It's not them at their super crazy experimentative,
Yeah, but again, I think this is sort of like, if you sort of like have followed what they've done since Verhazy, taking on from the Alchemy Index to...
Which the Alchemy Index is worth pointing out, like there's a four-part series, and it goes from ambient electronica through to almost folky, levels of chilledness. With then then there's one of them that's really heavy, isn't there?
Yeah, there's like the rock one, the ambient one, the acoustic one, and the electronic one. Electronic. Well, anyway, yeah.
So they will delve into all kinds of stuff throughout their back catalogue.
Totally, and like they've then sort of reworked those elements into like the subsequent albums, like Beggars, To Be Anywhere is To Be Nowhere, and then obviously we're getting to this, which again I think this is possibly the best one since Verhazy. I really, really like this album.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on this, and I think part of that is because it just starts so strongly. I mean, Only Us, I think, is right up there as one of their best songs.
Amazing.
I mean, and just and we mentioned this on the last show, but I just love those like John Carpenter-esque synths that kick the track off. I was kind of hoping that the album might be peppered with that flavour, of which it isn't really. Like once you get past this track, it doesn't really do that. But that song's so good.
But it also, that's a great start to the album, and I could have taken an album songs just like that. But what I do like is the sort of the minimal approach to the album. It like songs don't outstay their welcome.
No, they're all to the point.
They're all to the point. They're all really well crafted, with really nice choruses.
So the choruses are amazing. See, one of the problems people seem to have that I've read is that some of the songs are forgettable.
Wow.
Now, I would have thought, like, as you go through this, just as maybe you're thinking, oh, maybe I could see why somebody would think this, then somebody does something interesting. Like, at any point, it feels like... And the bass on this album, I never talk about the bass, very, very rarely. I think he absolutely shines on this.
Yeah.
There's a couple of bass lines that's like, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think Dustin's vocals are some of the best.
He's probably his best, yeah, and his kind of raspy, smoky voice is.
Yeah, I just like the last track on the album, Beyond the Pines, is just like it's so cinematic, and then the way it kind of like holds that last note it's for like nearly a minute of just sort of noise or like atmosphere. But that's the thing. There's just this nice atmospheric vibe to the album, which again is just sort of like something I'm trying to sort of describe it. It's like listening to an album on vinyl where it's got character and it's got
and the production's wonderful. I love there's a wonderful, I don't know, almost dryness to the drum sound. It's really cool.
Well, again, I think they built a studio for this album,
Right.
which again is just sort of like why it feels so sort of like, I don't know. It's just like it's been recorded. I don't know. I hear like it's an album that's recorded by a band having fun and enjoying it. Like,
And then so there's a couple of interesting things as well. You've got Emma Ruth Rundle guests on Just Breathe.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful vocalist anyway. I mean, she really... I don't know how... I need to listen to it in my headphones because I haven't done that yet. I don't know if she's underneath every chorus because obviously at the end you can really hear her vocals.
She's in there, but then whenever
really
she comes
low.
in proper, it's just a really nice sort of like offset to Dustin's vocals.
And then when it closes, she kind of gets brought up. And it's really nice. It's really good. And then on The Dark, you've got that's the one where fans submitted via... like phones and just home recordings of stuff that I presume they included into the channel. And then I think I've not watched the video yet, but I'm pretty sure that video is all the fan submitted footage as well. So they've kind of crafted that using like people's recordings and stuff, which is pretty cool.
And I mean, we were both kind of like not completely hot on the first single that came out, The Grey, which is track 2 on the album.
I love that track now.
Yeah, that I'm sure I said this to you a couple of weeks ago, like just on Facebook about how like just listen to Only Us Into the Grey and it just feels like it makes more sense in an album context.
Yeah,
it just like each song plays nicely into each other, and it's just each time I've had it on, I've just been like, I get to the end, I'm like, God, there were so many good choruses in that. I can't wait. I'll just listen to it again.
The chorus on Hold Up a Light, which is just, it's so catchy and strong. Yeah. Like, it's him being slightly more aggressive with his vocals on that one. There are a couple that I'd, perhaps don't necessarily need to see live that are a little bit more simplistic. But there's nothing on here I don't like. So, I mean, the only two that I'd slightly mark down as not filler, but like I said, I wouldn't have to see it live would be My Soul. But it's still a beautiful track, really chilled.
Yeah.
And Blood on Blood, right, has this weird... There's a bit in the middle, you must have noticed it, where, like, I don't know if it's a load of harps. It's nuts. And I did slightly cringe at that bit. I was like, what is this? But it doesn't overstay its welcome. I don't know if it is harps, but it sounds... That's the only bit I was like, yeah, I don't like that.
I know you. Again, it's that sort of thing of like, for the first couple of times I was listening through it, where there's bits where I'm just sort of like, is this good? And then, like you were saying, then a chorus comes in, you're just like, no, that's such a good chorus.
Pulls it back. Or even a guitar, like some of the little riffs, absolutely amazing. Really, really cool. And like even little intros, like I love the intro to The Dark. It's such a simple little idea, but it's so effective.
I like you said, the inventiveness with the bass lines. Again, just... Yeah, it really sort of like... There's lots of layers to this, given that it is still so sort of like basic. But like I said, I think this album's got a lot of character.
I'm kind of really pleased because obviously after the not being quite so favoured on the last album, of which I will go back to again, but I think the thing is I love something the most when it's at that kind of melancholic, uplifting, alternative rock. That is what I absolutely love. And obviously, Thrice do that so well, and Dredge do that really well. And his vocals especially have that edge on this album. Whereas I think on the last album, not that it sounds like Foo Fighters, but I just found it a little bit happy, a little bit major key. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
And I think that's what's pulled this back, the fact that it is so slightly more minimalistic, slightly more down-tempo in places. And his vocals just, so good.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's the best one since Vehezu. So it's kind of, the last load of albums have had some great bits. The last album I thought was really good, but I think this is better than the last album.
I also love the front cover.
Yeah, I really like the artwork.
I've had it on Spotify on the TV, and I've just kind of sort of ended up staring at that cover for quite a while. It's really cool.
I like all the promotional artwork that they've been doing around with these things, and then obviously like actually sort of like, hashtagging onto their actual palms and things like that.
Yeah. Well, there's an illustrator. Have you got a finished copy or not yet?
Not yet.
So it's quite nice. It's cardboard, digipack. And there's like an illustrated hand on the inside, and then there's variations of that cover, like they've done with the online artwork and stuff. Just quite a nice, simple little booklet, but it's just it's really nice. It's good.
I wanted to get the hoodie. They were doing like a pre-order package for this cool hoodie that had the Palm on the back print and lyrics written down the arms and stuff. And I really wanted, but I only just got the album instead, so I'm still waiting for that package to arrive. But again, they sent me the sort of digital code anyway. But yeah, numerical rating.
I think I'm going to go 9 out of 10.
Yep, I was at a sort of 8.5, 9, but I think 9.
Very good. What track do you want to play? I mean, for me, I'd have said Only Us or The Dark.
Yeah, I would.
Or I guess Hold Up the Light.
Well, yeah, I was kind of going with Only Us or Just Breathe.
Let's do Only Us then, because it's just ace.
It is just. I mean, it is just that good. But yeah, if you get a chance, look at the go on YouTube and look at the video for this single, because it's kind of playing on the kaleidoscopy kind of thing with the.
Oh, I've not seen that yet.
Cover.
Cool. Here you go.
See through your eyes, you breathe with my lungs. I strain with your ear to make out the words your mother sung. I bless with your hands, I pray on my knees. It's my blood in your veins, in your heart, it's beating in me.
So that was our review of Thrice. That album was called Palms. As always, you can email us, info@machograndepodcast.co.uk if you want to send in your album reviews.
Or suggest any. As our next listener has written in, we do sort of converse quite a few times on Twitter at Macho Grande Pod, where he regularly sort of sends through sort of recommendations or any news that he finds or any gossip. Certainly on there's the most recent message he's saying he's heard several tracks off the New Architects album, and he said is very excited.
Cool. Okay, so this is from Joe. He said, "Afternoon, boys. Haven't dropped you an email for a while, so I felt like it was time to get in touch again. Usually I send you over a list of songs, albums, artists that I think are smashing it and deserve a bit more credit, and of course I'm going to do that again. It's becoming my personal brand, but I also thought I'd like to do something a bit different and send over 5 songs that are not really part of our scene and see what you think. Would like to get your opinion." So section 1, bands that you need to know. So he says, these guys have been horribly overlooked, and this is a band called Stasis. He's put the track Leech, so you can go on YouTube, and if you put Stasis and then Leech, you'll find this.
Okay.
Says, this was okay. I did like the guy's vocals.
Okay.
But it didn't wow me.
Right.
So I would just chime in with anything you want to say on these.
Okay.
Next one, he's put his Breakdown at Tiffany's, and the track is called Ghost. He says, good luck not falling in love with the chorus. Again, I just kind of thought it was okay.
Okay.
I don't mean to pan this list. There is a ton of stuff on here I do really like, so don't think I'm being horrible about this. I did put it on a few times, and it still didn't really stand out that much to me.
Okay.
But I think that's me, and that kind of particular brand of, breakdowny and then clean singy stuff is not really what I listen to as much these days.
Yeah, it might be my kind of thing, though.
And then he's put heavy, loud and shouty, I Am One. The track's called Of Life, Uncanny Valley. This I did really like, and especially because it reminded me very much of like early Plotting You. That kind of vibe, and like those kind of those horrible riffs that O Sleeper would have. So that kind of stuff. It's got quite a lot of dark, glitchy kind of sounds in it as well, which is really cool. So I'd not heard of that band before. I really enjoyed that.
Cool. Follow my lead.
Follow my lead. So this track's called Of the Father and the Faithless. I thought that was good. Huh?
From Donegal.
Where's that?
They're from Donegal.
Where's that?
It's written beside it.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know where that is.
Oh, right. That's in Ireland.
Oh, okay. Nice place?
It's lots of sand dunes.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It countryside.
Right.
Next to the sea.
Have you listened to this one?
No,
okay.
But I know where Donegal is.
Okay, right. It's a good track. I think you'd like it. Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
And then this was a real standout. He's put 8 Kids, who I think we've talked before. We might even have played one of their tracks a long time ago. And he says the ending of this is great. He's right. The ending of this is absolutely incredible. There's this massive build of like these guitars sort of swirling, uplifting. It's very cool. So yeah, 8 Kids. I can't pronounce this. Bordstein and Rand. I don't know what that means. Borstenrand. Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay, cool. And then he's put Shangri-La. This track's called Stay. And this is a little bit more accessible, like kind of more easygoing. It's just a fairly simple but big catchy tune. I thought that was pretty good. So yeah, that's well worth checking out. And then the last one he's put on section 1 was a band called Cold Bones, and that track's called Moments. And this is kind of different to the other stuff because this is a little bit more kind of post-rock. And that name's been around a little while, Cold Bones. That's really good as well. Okay.
Borstenrand is kind of like a mix of kind of words, kind of like a curbside edge, curbside edge. Board, curb, edge, margin. So yeah, it's kind of an amalgam of words.
Okay.
Yeah, Steinrand means curb.
Do you want to read his section 2 bands?
Okay, and now for something a little bit different. Section 2, Said the Sky. The track "Beautiful."
Now, when he says something a bit different, like we're talking like
Very
almost,
different?
Like we're talking pop in a lot of cases, moody pop, I'd say in some of the cases.
Okay, so this one's kind of like a DJ stuff.
This is the kind of thing I play on a Monday.
Okay.
Right, so it is slightly poppier, but would appeal to an alternative crowd. It's not my kind of thing, but yeah, I can see why people would dig this.
Well, yeah, because you love guitar solos and like glam rock, isn't it?
I do not. Not that this sounds like that.
Sorry, I derailed you.
It's all right.
I derailed myself. Novo Amor, Birthplace.
This is cool. I really like this, and it's a really good video. Like this dude kind of underwater. It's a very, very chilled ambient kind of track. It's ace.
The Slow Show.
Again, these are so up my street. As soon as he sent these over, I've added pretty much all these to my Facebook and stuff. I follow all of them now. So again, really, really like sad, beautiful track. It's ace. Really cool.
Okay.
And it's like a stop motion video as well, which is really cool. So yeah, the Slow Show. Yeah, very cool.
No, Andrew Bayer.
This is more soundscape kind of ambient type stuff. Almost like soundtrack. You know, that kind of music. It's brilliant.
Nice. Oh, I like that sort of thing.
I did this list, but I mean, the first one is really quite poppy. I don't think you'll be behind that either. But the rest of them, I think you'll love.
Okay, I'll have to get onto that. Echoes.
That's actually that was a bit
well.
poppy as well. Yeah. But it's kind of more downbeat vibe. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, and then just keep killing it from Joe. Thanks, Joe. I love when you recommend stuff. You like I said, he's always messaging new stuff via Twitter.
Well, as I say, I added a ton of bands there. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. Again, he's just sort of like some of the last stuff he sent over are really good. Yeah, I keep sending his music because it's like I used to be really good at sort of like scouring MySpace for things like this, but now it's like YouTube's really the place to go to sort of scour, and it's I don't know, I just don't have the time anymore.
I know
so it's
exactly
really
the feeling.
sort of like getting sent through these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can, of course, leave a voicemail as well. So if you want to suggest anything for us to listen to, you can leave a message 056 03 689 842, and we can also play it on the show as well. So, or a gig review or something, anything like that.
Yeah, or info at Macho Grande Podcast if you want to email us, and at Macho Grande Pod for the Twitters.
The next show, of course, is our bumper extravaganza 200, of which we've prepared for loads, haven't we?
Like every episode, I prepare as little as possible. I turn up and I say things. There's no script. I just spitball and throw things into the wild ether. And, you know, I mean, some weeks I barely even listen to music and I just come on and improvise.
Well, we'll hopefully have a bit of a bumper show for 200, and we're hoping to have a couple of guests. But then after that, we'll be, you know, back to the kind of normal format, and we'll obviously get into the end of the year, you know, type stuff. So
cool. And yeah, obviously we're getting we're like nearly October. How crazy is that? But yeah, no, we'll again, there's lots still coming out, so we will sort of try to get as many review episodes out as possible. And yeah, again, if you've listened to the new stuff that we've just reviewed from Attan and Thrice, and you want us to
tell us we're wrong,
or if we're right, again, write in. So, films that have come out, you've listed a few things. This is where we throw in a bit of film chats. Now that we're towards the end of the show.
Oh, you've got 3. Oh, so first of all, we came through Preacher season 3.
Yeah.
Which have you watched all that?
Yeah, I've just I finished it. When did it finish? 2 weeks ago?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Or a week ago?
We didn't start it on time, so we literally just binge watched it.
Oh, I think it was every Monday. It was on Amazon Prime, so I just.
I think it's absolutely incredible. And I know I've said this previously, but the 3 actors doing the main trio, and then of course the actor doing her start, it's just absolutely, they've nailed it.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of fun. It is crazy. I would love, like, if you've not read the comics, it must just seem mental. But it's so good.
Yeah, I think this started off... This was definitely the slowest season at the start.
Yeah, but at least it didn't have that weird, because season 2, although it was enjoyable, it did have those couple of episodes where it just kind of trailed for a bit, even though it was enjoyable, but it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, and it was kind of all centered around Cassidy's son's flat.
Yeah, and they're still largely, like, they've done such a good job of kind of sticking to the comic, but going on their own way about it.
Yeah, and also just sort of modernizing tweaks. Little sort of subtle things like throwing in, MAGA hats, like when the Nazis turn up to free Hitler.
Oh, yeah,
and one of them's just like, they don't talk about it, they don't mention it, but one of them's just wearing a MAGA hat. It just sort of, it's subtle things like that where they just did it, where they changed the reference of a band or something that they're talking about, and especially like it's Cassidy that gets all those lines, really, where it is all the sort of like modern references where he just sort of like wise up. But yeah, I thought this season was really good, especially like Hairstar and once the Allfather came in.
He's something else. He's just perfect.
It was great to see him cower in front of the Allfather as well.
Yeah,
because it was just it just sort of really started to he started to come into his own, and especially with Humperdinck.
Humperdinck's brilliant, yeah.
It all just sort
of... So, for those of you that don't know, Humperdinck is like this, God knows how many generations of Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah, he's the only descendant, only living descendant.
And he's basically just he's like
inbred.
Retarded, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's certainly in the comic, he is just...
He's just like a gibbering mess in that, and he
yeah,
just keeps shitting himself and stuff.
It's like, what's his special power? He can tap dance. And it's just like, yeah, and again, they're sort of like, they're still only really, like, early on into the books.
I was going to say, we're only on about the third one, I think, because the story with the vampires is pretty early on. So
yeah, I mean, there's still like, because the comic I think lasted 75 issues.
Oh, 9 of the kind of compendium books.
Yeah, so there's still lots to cover, but again, I suppose it helps that they did a whole season to build up the characters.
Yeah, totally.
At first, and again, it's like. I think there were weaker periods on this series or this season, whenever you've got like some characters disappeared for ages, like Hitler and Arseface.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Arseface, I'd say they haven't quite made him shine yet. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
he hasn't quite had his moment, I'd say. But again, they're building him so well.
True, and the thing is, I was worried about how they were going to do the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he finally showed up, it was like, oh no, that's great.
Yeah.
and the guy, whoever they've got playing him, it does great wisecracks, and it sort of works well as that kind of like sarcastic, joking figure that he is. And I thought it worked out rather well. Like I said, it was just some of the bits when they're on Grandma's farm, or not farm, but like. The house, it was a bit kind of slow, like where's this going?
The comedy with Cassidy and the other vampire I was in tears.
Yeah.
That's so good. Anyway, go watch it, it's fucking wicked.
Yeah, and it's a good one to binge on now that they're just finished season 3. Like, I really was skeptical when they first announced Preacher.
Yeah, totally.
But they've made it work, and they, like you said, they've made it different enough from the original source material that it stands on its own. And again, it helps that it's updated it slightly in places just to be its own thing in a way. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, the Garth Ennis original series on Vertigo is filthy.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
But it's amazing. But yeah, check out Preacher if you haven't. So, Who is America?
So that's the Sacha Baron Cohen.
That's right, the series, yeah.
Which is really funny, it's worth a watch. Some of it is just cringe-worthy and very, very funny. And it's not usually my cup of tea, that kind of humour, but it's very good.
Yeah, well, I haven't liked a lot of the characters he's done over the last couple of years.
No, as I say, I'm not a massive fan, but this is good.
I especially liked the people he went after on this show, and I've only seen clips of things on YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, he went after some great people, and again, some of the characters on this one were particularly good.
Yeah, well worth a watch.
Especially the Iranian.
Iran.
I've forgotten his name. The Iranian.
Some of the things he dupes
special
people
forces
to do is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is absolutely. I mean, like people like find and rightly so, lost their jobs or their mayorship and whatnot.
It's mental what he got. Yeah.
But
so the 3 films I put down, I'll just skim through these just very briefly, just so I've done them really.
I don't want you to spoil Upgrade because I still really want to see it. I haven't got round to checking it out yet.
So Upgrade is basically, in a nutshell, it's a guy who gets quite badly injured right at the start of the film, and he gets implanted with a chip. The chip then basically sort of allows him to control his paralysed body. It's okay. The idea is good. I lost a bit of interest.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say... I seem to be very much in the minority because people are absolutely raving about this film, so I'll wait and see what you think about it. But I just thought it was okay.
Oh, because I've heard that it's really good, so I didn't want to...
Everyone has raved about it. It's weird because some of the fight sort of stuff is quite brutal, but it doesn't go quite there enough or well enough. He's very good. Like the way it's shot is quite clever. And as I say, the idea is just a fun sci-fi story is pretty good. I don't think it was as good as everyone said, and I still think it felt a bit cheap. But
okay,
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, certainly it was on the Blumhouse budget, so it's working at that sort of like we knock like films for sort of $6 to $8 million, and bring in the profits. But again, I'd heard it's really good, so
I wouldn't watch it again.
Okay.
In fact, I'd say that I bought through all 3 of these films. I definitely wouldn't watch this ever. Is Ghost Stories, which is written by Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman, which of course is adapted from the London stage play. Jeremy Dyson, of course, is one of the League of Gentlemen writers.
Yes.
So Ghost Stories, it's basically in a nutshell, is this guy who has to investigate 3 incidents of supposedly real supernatural ghost sightings, which then leaves you with these almost vignette sort of style pieces, which brings in people like Paul Whitehouse and a few other people. It's just not very good. I mean, it feels a bit like the old Hammer horror, kind of pacing,
right?
Which nearly works, but you're not given enough, basically. And then the way the film transpires towards the end, you don't get that payoff because you haven't invested earlier on. So personally, that's a big thumbs down for me. I really didn't like it, and I wouldn't recommend it. The stage play is probably a completely different beast. I bet that's a really good fun experience. So who knows?
Okay.
And then the other one was Siberia. Now I knew nothing about this going in. It got very mixed reviews. This is Keanu Reeves as this diamond merchant who he has to go to Russia to sell some rare blue diamonds, and the deal kind of goes sour. And at the same time, he runs into this Russian cafe owner, of which he develops quite an obsessive relationship. And it's weirdly sexual. Like, I wasn't expecting this kind of undercurrent of sexual activity, because it's been a while since like those kind of... Not saying it's like the sexual thrillers of the 90s, like, 9.5 Weeks and Fatal Attraction, that kind of stuff. But it's in there at the same time. And it felt a bit different, because it's been a long time since I've seen a film like that. I quite enjoyed it. I'm not sure I'd rewatch it, but it was definitely... Whilst it was on, I had a good time watching it.
Okay.
And that's it for me.
Okay, I finally watched The Disaster Artist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. It was again. It's kind of like, do you know the original, The Room?
I know the story behind both films. I've not seen either.
Okay, well, again...
Had you seen The Room previously, then?
Oh, I've known of The Room.
Oh, right. Okay.
For a long time.
All right.
And, like, for anyone who doesn't know, it's their sort of...
Should I watch these? Because I'll be honest, it's not screaming out to me.
It's one of those things of, like... I think The Room's worth watching purely from a scientific point of view, basically, it's made with such earnest as well. Like, The Room is by the writer and director, and I use those terms loosely, Tommy Wiseau, who is also, pretty much every other duty in the film, producer, whatnot, and main star of said film.
Didn't he sink a ridiculous amount of money into making the whole thing happen?
Yeah, I spent something like $6 million to make it, and obviously it has subsequently recouped it several times over.
So this now famously gets the same kind of treatment that like Rocky Horror does, where when there's a screening, people will turn up and
sing along.
There's props and
yeah. Except that's a good film.
Right.
The Room is, it's worth watching because it's like if you described what a film was to an alien and then they went and made a film, is kind of what you'd get with The Room. So it's kind of like all those things that you would think are in a film are kind of there, but nothing's right. It's all just so bad. But it's, again, done with such earnest. And like the deliveries of certain lines are just terrible, and things don't make sense, and things are creepy and weird. But at the same time, it's got a loving fan base. So there's things like, they went out to buy sort of picture frames to have in the background of The Room, and they didn't change the pictures out that they came with, and they all came with just sort of like inserts of spoons. Pictures of spoons in, the insert of the picture frame. So again, this has become the thing with the cult following. Like, people do go to live versions of it, and they, anytime there's a spoon on screen, they throw spoons at the camera or at the screen, and or they repeat lines, or they improvise and throw in ad libs from the audience. Like, 'cause there's such weird things that are thrown.
Just remind me, so James Franco, he's made The Disaster Artist. Is this him remaking the film?
Sort of. So, Greg Parcell, I think that's his surname, he was the co-star of The Room. Now, he wrote a book following that called The Disaster Artist, which is sort of his story behind the making of it, and everything that went into it, because it was a train wreck production, and there's a lot of sort of kind of nasty background stories going on, because the two of them were friends, and then sort of massive falling out, and again, it's kind of been reinvented to be sort of oh no, it was always meant to be a comedy, but that clearly wasn't the intention, and Tommy sunk so much money into it. And anyway, so this film's based on that book.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of like a love letter to this film, which is so beloved, but at the same time, it doesn't quite work if you don't know the original material, or especially because when you get to the end, they do side-by-side cuts of original scenes in films that they filmed for the thing. So it's but then at the same time, obviously, it's hard to describe, but yeah, it's very much like not Plan 9, Ed Wood, except I think Ed Wood is the better film. Yeah, it's entertaining. It's certainly worth a watch, but I think have a few drinks and sit with Joe and watch.
And which one would you start with? The Room first, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, purely just because you will get to the end of it and be like, what was that? It genuinely is I do not understand this, because, and again, it's one of those things, after you watched it, you can go on YouTube and watch some videos of the live screenings where it shows you why people have garnered the cult following, shouting at the cinema screen, or shouting at certain characters, or saying lines at the same time as certain characters and things like that. It's just very funny. But
cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other film I saw was The Predator.
Ooh. Go on.
shit sandwich.
Oh, wow. Okay, right, fine. Because I'll be honest, I mean, obviously I slagged off that first trailer. On subsequent trailers, I kind of thought, yeah, actually,
Yeah,
I can get behind this.
Really excited.
One of the trailers in particular made it look really quite good.
Yeah, and I love the poster. That like sort of acidic orange poster with the. I thought that was great, and it's just a mess.
It's such a shame because obviously Thingy, what's his name, who was in obviously the original Predator, and he's written loads of screenplays.
Yeah, it's like whatever film he was trying to make.
Shane Black, and is it Shane Black?
Yeah, Shane Black. There's like threads of plot lines that we never get, that never get built on, and then like characters disappear for sort of 20 minutes and then suddenly reappear, or things are introduced that you're like, where did that come from? Like it's all been spliced together without the scene that came before it.
Okay, yeah, I'll wait for that to come out then.
The first sort of 25 minutes work. Certainly the first 10, 15 minutes are great. You're like, there's some really good stuff that happens in it, which is like, oh, I've never seen that kind of happen before.
Okay.
But by the end, it was just like, what on earth is this mess?
Ugh,
And it ends with such a stupid end.
Right.
It's so stupid. You will just be like, I do not care. I do not care. But yeah, so disappointed. Like, wait for it to come out on streaming or something.
Yeah, I will. Okay, anything else you want to add?
No, that's my rant's over.
Cool. All right, so we are going to close out on Conan. Now, this is a band they've been around for a little while. We're going to play a track called Vexagon. Their new album, Existential Void Guardian, it came out on the 14th of September via Napalm Records. It's their fourth album. They're from Liverpool, England, described as Caveman Battle Doom. I've seen the name bandied about for a couple of years and not paid that much attention. But I've
seen it in video stores since like the early 80s.
Since the early 80s, yeah. I think somebody really big used to be in the band. Really famous guy.
Really? Oh, okay. He's done loads of comics as well, and like, yeah, I've seen that name loads of places.
I couldn't really avoid, because this is one of those rare occasions where actually my feed seemed to be people talking about this album. So I was like, right, okay, we're gonna have to give this a go.
Okay.
So it's getting really, really, really good reviews. So there you go. We're going to close out on Conan. This track is called Vexagon, and we will see you for the mega special, truly spectacular episode 200.
Yeah, I'll prep lots, and well, hopefully we'll have a few surprises in it, and we'll do something interesting. But yeah, speak to you next time.
See you later.
Macho Grande?
No, I don't think I'll ever get over Macho Grande.